Buy on MTG. Construct your deck. Command your board. Conquer the table.
Oh, hello out there, wide world of web. This is Rob at Buy on MTG. And want to say good morning or good afternoon or whenever you're actually watching the video. In my last video, I talked about doing a quick breakdown on my deck bag, what I carry around and why I carry it around and kind of what inspired me to build this. So this is go ahead and open up my deck bag. Let's make sure it's visible on the camera. Yep. So it started out originally, everybody just making whatever decks kind of spoke to you. And I felt like I continuously made the same decks over and over. It was a control deck. I fell into a lot of Esper and really, I don't know, just control stuff. That being said, found this really cool dice set. It's a Dungeons & Dragons dice set, and although I don't play Dungeons & Dragons, it contained this little die. It's a 10-sided die, and I hope it's visible on the camera. I don't know if I bring it up a little bit, if that'll focus on it, but yeah, it has all 10 of the guilds on it. And I was like, oh, thanks, Wizards of the Coast. That's a really neat idea. What I'm going to do with this is I will get a pre-con of each of the 10 guilds and just slowly upgrade them so they're all approximately the same power level. And with that, when I sit down to kind of omit, oh, this is my favorite deck, I'm not going to play this one a lot, I roll the die and whatever this says is what I play. So that's kind of where this started out. I'm going to go through all 10 decks. You'll notice 2 of them don't have a label on them because 2 of them haven't been selected yet. And as I go through, you'll see what and why. That being said, we're going to start out with, on my list, I have Azorius. Azorius is a blank here because I have 4 Typal decks. Here they are, 4 Typal decks, and I didn't want another Typal deck. I tested the Spirits list. It's a lot of fun. It can be powerful, but I didn't want a 5th. And I tested the Vehicle deck, and powerful, fun. Felt like I was playing another control deck. So at that time, I didn't want to run right back into that. Can it change? Sure, in the future. If they make an Azorius Planeswalker Precon, it's probably going to get me. But either way, don't have an Azorius deck right now, and not sad about it. Boros is going to be the next one that I go to. Let's go through this little list here so I can put them out there. It's Nelly Borka. So it started out, it's the Goad Precon, and it has a real strong stop hitting yourself kind of sub-theme to it. I think they probably got that idea from Sheldon Mannery. He was an amazing gentleman, and that was a really cool deck idea. So it's definitely a nod to him. But I did this one first because, like I said, I ran a lot of control stuff, and this is a combat damage deck, and it forced me out of my comfort zone. All of that being said, I'm probably on the 4th iteration of this thing because Goat is the best way to get 2nd place. You're forcing the other 3 players to beat the heck out of one another, and by the time it's down to 1v1, Goat is an irrelevant mechanic, and then you just get your teeth kicked in. So right now, the iteration I'm on leans a little bit harder into the stop hitting yourself. I've given myself some of the control package things like deflecting SWAT and whatnot to try and I don't know, make it a little bit stronger and hopefully be able to close the game out and not just get 2nd place. I'm going to go on to Arachdos is on my list next. That's Prosper the Tomebound. I've played this one for a while. At one point, I had it way hyper-tuned to the point where it was on the cusp of being a CEDH list. And yeah, it just felt a little too strong. So I actually did a full rewind. It is back down to Precon. And I'm going to slowly do upgrades to it after I get reps with it within my play group to see how it feels, what it needs. And so this one is not done yet, but I have the Precon and I have a majority of the cards in my toolkit. Just haven't done it yet. Going to lead me into Dimir. That's this other little blank right here. Tested out the Fairy deck. It's a heck of a control deck, but once again, I already have 4 Typal decks, didn't want to do that. And the other Dimir deck that kind of jumped out at me was Zombies, but same issue. The last one that I've been looking at is the one from the Dungeons and Dragons set that I think it's centric around nightmares, but you're not really looking at it from a typo perspective as opposed to a mill deck. And I don't currently have a mill deck. So that probably will fill this shortage in the future. Follow on is going to be Gruul. It's Trash Pandas. Trash Pandas is another combat damage deck. That's why this was the second one that I went through and built out, because it forced me out of my comfort zone again. It's an adorable little raccoon, so that's a big win. Also, I originally ran it down the artifact rabbit hole. It's very powerful. I did the Mycosynth Lattice, Dark Steel Forage. Is it Dark Steel Forage or Citadel? Forage. Final answer. Dark Steel Forage. And Nevinyrral's Disc. And so you can wipe the whole table. It's a good like win condition. It doesn't close the game out, but it essentially does. That being said, I wasn't really feeling it too much, so I've hard shifted into Enchantress, because green does give me a majority of the Enchantress effects. It still does the same thing. It doesn't give any like hard lockouts where you're like, I'm running Mycosynth Lattice. Why don't I run Artifact Hate Karn and just shut off the table that way? Because at that point, it felt too stacksy. So I wanted it to feel more combat damage. And that's why I went into the Enchantress side. And it's still pretty powerful. Done, I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 games with it. And I think it's right on the cusp. It might be a little too strong. I might have to swap out one or two things, but it felt good. It felt like a nice strong deck. It's going to lead me into Spellslinger, my Izzet deck. Otters is one of my typal decks. And I'm going to go ahead and sit this down and acknowledge I am well aware he is banned. My play group is fine with the fact that I play him. If I took it to a random play group and they were not, then I just don't use him as a companion. I felt a 6-mana dual caster, well, that's not broken at all. It's double the cost. So it's not that big of a deal. And it's an otter tribal deck, so it kind of felt on theme. And like I said, my play group, 0 issues with him. I don't believe he needs to be banned at all. If anything, banned as a companion would be fine. But that's not a thing right now, but it wouldn't be difficult. Nonetheless, this started out as the Spellslinger deck, the precon from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I actually mentioned it in a video yesterday when I did a pack break, and I pulled one of the cards from this, and I did, I don't know, just a goofy little layout and an explanation of a line that took place on a match that I won with this. And it's a lot of fun. There's way more cards swapped in this than any of the other precons. That being said, I did a full typal swap, and that's really a bulk of what changed within it. It runs me over to Golgari. It's Squirrels. So I've been playing Squirrels for quite a while, well before we had any legendary Squirrels. Originally, it was my Simic list, because a majority of the support creatures for the Squirrels are in fact druids. So I made it into a druid tribal deck, or typal deck, with a squirrel sub-theme. It's actually a list that I brought to the first Command Fest, and it did pretty well. I ran the druid package where if you tap, I think it's 7 untapped druids, you gain control of target player's lands. And I expanded the wildlife reserve for these little furry fellas a handful of times at the Command Fest, so it definitely did pretty great. But as Wizards started giving us more squirrels, the deck morphed into this Arista Squirrel deck list. And when they recently gave us the pre-constructed list from Bloomborough, then it fell within the constraints of using the die and the precon thing. So now I'm the Squirrel precon with the upgrade package to make it similar to what I had before. Maybe a little bit more watered down, but it still plays pretty great. That's going to lead me on to Orzhov. Orzhov, I did the Party Time deck. It is a blast to play. It's strong out of the box. The changelings that are within it really make the party mechanic a lot more accessible than one would initially think. That being said, you do 8 or 10 card swap out of that precon, and it really hums. It's unique in its approach to gameplay. So I think that one is going to be locked in there for quite a while. I don't need another aristocrat deck because I'm covering that with the squirrels. So that being said, she's fun to play and probably going to be a mainstay of the bag for quite a while. Let's go to Spellslinger. Imagine that. It's a cat. Look at that. I'm Dr. Seuss. Cat precon. They gave us a secret layer for it, similar to the squirrels. I'm a sucker for that kind of junk. If it's adorable and the artwork is good from my perspective and the card value is there, I'm going to buy the secret layer. I'm that target demographic. And that's why Bloombro got me. I mean, it is what it is. Nonetheless, Cats is very versatile. They gave us a companion that is plug and play. You can run Cats in a handful of different ways, whether you want it to be combat damage, whether you want it to be token synergy, whether you want it to be Voltron. You can run Cats a couple different ways, and you don't have to buy a whole nother deck or do a whole nother mana base. It's a fun deck that I've had since 2017 when that deck dropped. I believe it's 2017. I could potentially be way off, but either way, I've had the Eminence Cat since it dropped, and it's fun and it plays great, and sometimes it pops off crazy and sometimes it just kind of putters around, but every time that I've played it, it still ramps well, it still makes creatures, it still does the thing that cats do, just sometimes it doesn't yield the answers that you need at the time you need them. Because anytime you're in a creature-based deck, a couple board wipes and you might be out of it. But either way, it's a very fun deck, and I recommend it if somebody doesn't have a Spellslinger deck and is looking for something to fill that gap in their deck box. Last up is going to be Simic. It's another typo deck. I'm running Merfolk, Kumena. It's my favorite Merfolk that they've made so far. I will say the lower to the ground that I can keep my commander, the more opportune that I have to get them out and them impact the board. It also is kind of cool. Let me see if I can get this centered on the camera. I met Tyler Jacobson at the third Command Fest and bought an artist proof from him and commissioned a portrait. Let me get that out from underneath my stupid face. A portrait of Kumena, and I think it turned out awesome. And it's, I don't know, had a blast and, oh, bumped my microphone. Had a blast, and I lugged this around with me. It's not necessarily the one that I consider the commander because it's technically not a legal Magic card. Not that I have any issues with people running proxies or non-legal Magic cards. I just personally don't do that. That being said, this is my current deck bag. This dice is what inspired it, and forcing me out of my comfort zone was the initiating factor. Overall, it's a pretty good blend. I've had a blast with it. When I roll Dimir or Azorius, I just roll again, hoping that they come out with something soon that jumps out at me. Like I said, regarding the Nightmare deck, I'm probably just going to pick that up and give it a go. And talk about that as a deck tech maybe in the future. Overall, I could talk about what kind of products I use. Like I love this Pirate Lab bag. I love these silly Ultra Pro boxes. Every sleeve, every card I own is in a Dragon Shield sleeve. I pick products that I like, and I'm very brand loyal when it comes to this is the sleeve I like. This is the deck box that I use. I like the way things fit. Obviously, there's a bit of OCD with the label making and the organization thing, but either way, I'm going to finish up my morning. I'm going to drink my coffee, and hope you guys all have a great day. This is Buy on MTG. I'm Rob. Good luck and have fun.